Nobody knows these lawyers in Washington, D.C. like Julie Kelly, I can tell you that. And she's been a fantastic reporter. She has a wonderful blog site, Declassified with Julie Kelly on Substack. That's Declassified with Julie Kelly Substack. Julie Kelly, you have uncovered something in the last few minutes regarding this Judge Boasberg. Tell us.
Well, of course, Mark, thank you for having me on. I've covered all of these judges, as you and I have talked about for years, as they presided over hundreds of January 6 cases, including Judge Boasberg. I was in his courtroom, actually, Boasberg. I was in his courtroom in December, the week before Christmas, Mark, when he forced a woman who went inside the Capitol for 9 minutes. She was charged with 4 misdemeanors, forced her to go on trial before a D.C. jury, refused to delay her trial until the president took office. And she was saying, the president has promised pardons. I will definitely get a pardon because I have 4 misdemeanors. He rejected the president's promises of pardons, put her on trial, and of course she was convicted immediately by a D.C. jury. But also, Judge Boasberg,
let me just stop you there. How disgusting and sickening this is, and how history is going to record this. These phony judges, these phony juries, hardcore. They might as well just go to the DNC, and give somebody a gavel there, dress them up as a judge, and pick the jury right out of the staff there, and that's that. No?
Well, it is. And further, aside from the fact that the president had promised pardons to J6ers, especially those charged with these 4 misdemeanors, he put her on trial before jurors in a city that had just elected Kamala Harris 92%. I think Donald Trump got 6% of the vote in Washington. So setting aside the fact of pardons, it was very clear, and always has been, I think Washington is the most democratic city in the country, and they hold special contempt for Donald Trump and those involved in the events of January 6th. He completely ignored that, put her on trial. Now, Boasberg has presided over 70-plus J6 trials. I went through the sentencing chart for all J6ers a few days ago. In most cases, even low-level petty offenses like parading in the Capitol, Judge Boasberg sentenced those American citizens to jail time in federal prisons. But here he is.
So he throws the book at American citizens, but Venezuelan, vicious, brutal gang members, he demands that the planes turn around and bring them back.
Correct.
Unbelievable.
And he jumped into action on Saturday. Mark, he must have known now the ACLU and Democracy Forward, which is led by Mark Elias, and they filed this lawsuit. Apparently they filed it at some point before the president published his proclamation invoking the Alien Enemies Act. And this is the one that is ordering the immediate deportation of Venezuelan illegals who are tied to the Venezuelan gang backed by the Maduro regime. Randomly, we're told, Mark, this is assigned to Judge Boasberg, who leapt into action on Saturday, issued 2 temporary restraining orders, turned the lawsuit that represented 5 unidentified Venezuelan illegals, turned that into a class action suit for any Venezuelan subject to the president's proclamation, prevented now for 14 days anyone from executing the president's proclamation, and yes, went to the defense of these Venezuelan illegals. Meanwhile, he has thrown the book at J6ers, thrown them in federal prison for low-level offenses. It's just, but this is what all these...
There's no way this man should be on the bench. He's a disgusting disgrace. He absolutely is, appointed by Obama. He is a political hack in a black robe. He is a radical left-wing lawyer. There's a whole bunch of them in the federal judiciary now, thanks to Biden and the Democrats that controlled the Senate. And what do you make of John Roberts admonishing the president on impeachment? I mean, rather than admonishing his own, underlings, rather than doing something about it, as a matter of fact, which he could have 2 weeks ago, this is the best so far John Roberts can do. What do you make of that?
Well, I'll tell you what's dangerous about what John Roberts said today, aside from completely going outside of his lane. He has no purview to comment on impeachment proceedings. Of course, that is the responsibility of Congress. The joke, of course, Mark, as you know, he talked about 2 centuries. Impeachment should not be used under, to litigate judicial disagreements. How many federal judges have been impeached and convicted? 8 since the beginning of time. It's never used, and that's the problem. That's how we created this constitutional crisis. That's how we created judges like Judge Boasberg, Tanya Chutkan, Amy Berman Jackson, Beryl Howell, his predecessor. They are infallible.
Judge Ali, Judge Reyes. I can go down this whole list of these fools.
Yes, Judge Reyes, who today now overturned the president's executive order on transgenders in the military. You have another judge, Royce Lamberth, who overturned the president's executive order on transgenders getting hormone treatment and surgery in federal prison.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about Royce Lamberth. But these are the same judges, Mark, you and I have talked about for 4 years, who insisted that the 4-hour protest at the Capitol on January 6th was an attempt to overthrow democracy and overturn the election, the results of the 2020
Let me ask you something,
election.
Julie Kelly. The same people who claim that what's happening at January 6th every day at Columbia University and worse, where Jews are running for their lives and hiding, where the police are beaten every single time they come out. They're shutting down classrooms, graffiti, violence, taking over buildings. You want to talk about January 6th? Isn't it funny? They claim that's free speech. Isn't that remarkable?
They do. I mean, free speech, of course, is everyone else except for those who protested at the Capitol on January 6th. Think of what Judge Boasberg also did. Number one, he put his judicial imprimatur on the unlawful use of 1512c2, the post-Enron obstruction statute. Not only did he allow that unlawful statute, unlawfully applied statute, of course, the Supreme Court overturned that in June of 2024 in the Fisher decision. He allowed that. He added sentencing enhancement for J6ers who were convicted on that unlawfully applied statute. He put
I want the nation to understand that statute was passed after the Enron case. And essentially, the core of the statute prevents companies, businesses, from destroying evidence in anticipation of subpoenas and so forth and so on. Had absolutely nothing to do with what happened on January 6th. They throw around this word obstruction. It had nothing whatsoever to do with January 6th. And yet these cases were brought, many of them, based on that, and the judges kept rubber stamping it.
They kept rubber stamping that, including Judge Boasberg. They also, so this applied to 300 plus J6ers. Mark, some were thrown in prison for 4 years on convictions or plea agreements on 1512c2 alone. Now, did Judge Boasberg and the 15 other judges on the district court who put their imprimatur on that, did they come back and apologize? Did they feel any remorse for what they did to American citizens? No. Again, he put a 60-year-old woman, Sandra Wire from Pennsylvania, in federal prison for 14 months on a 1512c2 conviction. But yet here he is running to the defense of dangerous Venezuelans who are here illegally, who are tied to this PDA gang, which has been designated a foreign terror organization by the Trump administration, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, flying them out of this country. And Judge Boasberg comes to their rescue on Saturday and now is demanding, Mark, and this was an order he issued again today, he is demanding details on all of the flights.
All right, my friend. Well, thank you for everything you do. You're very much appreciated by the American people, and we appreciate you, Julie. Thank you.
I appreciate you, Mark. Thanks so much.
You take care of yourself. Unbelievable, this guy, isn't it, America? Isn't he? It's disgusting. And John Roberts, what he did today was disgusting. And anybody who goes on TV or radio or writes columns who claims to be conservatives or constitutionalists or originalists and defend this, they're disgusting. Pathetic. This is the time people who understand the Constitution, believe in the Constitution, really need to speak out. Need to speak out. Just outrageous.